My amplified unit, salute! Monday Night Raw, the amplified review for 8/12/2024. I, of course, will be your host, B, motherfucking C, the amplified man. Unit, we're going to simplify this cold open teaser. I'm going to give you the 3 highlights of this show last night. I'm going to give you the 3 lowlights of this show last night, and then we're going to dissect it in totality. So grab your bevies, and I hope you guys are ready to get amplified. Salute! That's a mixture. I got the Folgers with the Dunkin' Extra Extra. So we're mixing it, because you know, the best part of waking up, it's Folgers in your cup. Folgers, it's in your motherfucking cup. The coffee's good, man. I had to pause the cold open and drink almost all my coffee. That's how good. When the coffee is that good, you got to keep at it. But we're going to keep this cold open short and sweet. 3 highlights from last night's show, 3 lowlights from last night's show. Just in case you missed it, or maybe you caught it, but you still want to join in on the discussion the next morning with BC's review. In which case, salute, I appreciate it. Welcome. My veteran subscribers, welcome back. To my new subscribers, welcome, period. The 3 highlights from last night's show. Easily, Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed was the highlight of the show. And that's telling you something when you have a 3-hour show in totality. And Bronson Reed, a dude that has been booked 50-50 and even worse at times. Worse than 50-50 booked. A dude that was put in there with Gunther, a heel versus a heel, and when it was all said and done, after Bronson was defeated by Gunther, crickets from the crowd. They tried to play like the sentimental factor, right? Poor Bronson, he gave it his all, and he's sitting there all sad in the ring, and the crowd could not care. He got out-heeled by Gunther. Where do you go from there? Crowd is telling you they don't want him as a face. He just got out-heeled by Gunther. There was a time you actually felt bad for Bronson. And now on a 3-hour show, Bronson Reed was the highlight. And you're saying, well, if you missed the show, well, BC, what did he do? He just squashed R-Truth. Literally, just squashed him. Like 6 or 7 tsunami splashes from the top rope. But because they let the segment breathe, they made it feel special. Adam Pearce, what was amazing in this segment. Dude's basically having an aneurysm. He's turning red. Brock Lesnar red. Trying to get Bronson. I mean, he is so upset with Bronson Reed. I've never seen him upset with somebody like that. Not Drew, not Punk. And their ordeal recently, nothing has upset Adam Pearce like that. They did so much correct there. And this is where Hunter Hearst Helmsley, it was perfection, basically, that whole segment. Last week with Rollins, so damn good. This was even better, squashing Truth. And maybe you could do something with Miz and Truth, by the way, because Miz only took 1 tsunami splash and this dude disappeared, right? Expecto Petroleum, you did some wizardry and Miz was nowhere to be found. So why did he not help R-Truth over the next 5 minutes? The dude just took 1 splash. Miz was gone. Maybe this sets up something where they finally go their separate ways. We'll see. I don't know if Hunter is thinking that far ahead. BC is. We're a creative channel. My unit in BC, we're always thinking ahead. We're always a mile ahead, trying to future book. But you could do something there. Where was Miz? But Truth absolutely annihilated. The segment was so damn good. And it just goes to show you the company. Vincent Kennedy knew for over a decade when we were talking about why is there no larger-than-life wrestlers being created. Because the company doesn't want anybody else to get a big ego, right? No more Warriors, Stone Colds, and CM Punks. They put a stop to that. It's only who they want. So they handpicked people like Roman Reigns, right? When he was being forced as a face for 5 years. Finally, he turned heel and he became the dude we all knew he could become. That's when we all got behind Roman. But those 5 years where he was being forced, half the audience was like, no, thank you. Get him off the TV. But they had to handpick these dudes. Because when people got over organically, they were getting these egos and they thought they were bigger than the company. That's what the company thought. They were getting bigger heads than the company and they didn't want that. So Vince, for over 10 years, barely made new, larger-than-life stars. But he didn't lose the formula. He knew what he was doing. Or he knew how to build these stars. Hunter Hearst Helmsley knows what it takes to make something feel special. They just choose not to do it. It's the company way to do things. Don't build larger than life superstars unless they handpick you. If you get over organically, they can't stand that. Because you see how they're booking Bobby Lashley to the point where this dude's out of the company now, basically. And Karrion Kross. What are they doing with Karrion? Dragunov. Have him lose 100 matches and then give him a push? They know how to build stars. They choose not to. For some reason, over the last 2 weeks, they're picking Bronson now. Now we're going to go full throttle with Bronson. Well, good luck getting the audience that gave up on Bronson, getting them back. Because that's what happens when you have the dude lose so much. You can push him vividly now. But now you're asking a lot of fans to forget what they once saw with Bronson. At a snap of a finger, this dude can lose 5 matches in a row. Snap of a finger, this dude can lose focus and be average AF. That's why booking from the beginning matters dominantly. First impressions, you only get one chance at a first impression. Bronson came in average AF, Dragunov, Mello, Cameron Grimes, everybody came in average. So then when you finally push him a year later, good luck getting everybody to believe in it. I hope it happens. I hope the booking for Bronson continues to be dominant because that was so damn good. That segment. That was the highlight of Raw on a 3-hour show. Bronson Reed's 5-minute segment of tsunamis stole the show. The second highlight last night, I would say Ivy Nile. I know a lot of people pass that over, Ivy's heel turn, but it makes sense, first of all, right? Her boys, the Creed brothers, did join with Gable. They are the heel group against now they're American-made. Alpha Academy is the name now of Tozowa, Otis, and Maxine. That's Maxine's stable now. And Ivy, the Creed that's her La Famille. So it makes sense that she's going to stay with the Creeds even if they do join Gable. The fact that they have had Ivy fully believe in Chad Gable's BS is beautiful. Ivy is now full throttle with Chad Gable, turning on Maxine viciously and vividly last night. Very well done. Ivy's a little pit bull. Her as a heel is only going to elevate her stature and elevate the status of anything she is doing. With anybody she's in there with, this is only going to elevate that. I loved Ivy Niles. Maybe not loved. I really liked Ivy Niles' heel turn last night. More than a lot of the community that I gauged. A lot of people just passed it over. And that's probably because the tag match itself was, subpar or less. Tozawa just being off the distraction, defeated by the Crew. Wasn't that like a roll-up? I don't even know how. But seconds after the heel turn, Tozawa was flat on looking up at the lights. I like the heel turn. I thought, Hunter is doing all of these face heel turns, and a lot of them don't make sense. And one of them is the low light from last night, by the way. We're going to get to that. But he does all of these when they run out of ideas or they just don't want to overthink anything. They just turn people. Left and right, we see so many face heel turns under Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Some of them make sense. Some of them just don't. Ivy actually makes sense. The third highlight from last night. I would say the concession brawl to start the show. I love when you start the show with actual chaos. Not chaos for the sake of chaos. Not just a brawl at ringside or around ringside and referees are breaking it up. That can become redundant. But when you take it outside of the arena, or at least in different locations, I don't care if it's the basement, on the roof, the street, the concession, simplistic. Just take it to the concession area. That's how we started the show last night. It was pretty cool when Priest showed up behind Morgan and Dominic, by the way. And again, if you didn't see the show, we'll go over the full review in totality in just a couple minutes. But Damian appears in the crowd behind Morgan and Dominic, and that leads to that brawl into our first commercial. That I thought was so well done. Think outside the box. Not everything needs to be in that ring or at ringside. Take it elsewhere. You have a 3-hour show. You are a television show. Think. How can we do this different or special? It doesn't have to be overthought. It can be simplistic. Simplistic most of the time is all you need. But it just takes some effort, right? Just some effort to go, hey, what if we did this? Those were the three highlights last night. Bronson, Ivy, and the concession brawl to start the show. The three lowlights from last night. And they were very low. The three lowlights was no Wyatts. Last night, they were the main event. They were the talk of the town. They had their first matchup. I'm not saying you need the Wyatts wrestling last night, but you have to have a massive follow-up. They were the finish of the show. You finally have built momentum now. The vignettes are done. They're in action. That yet huge matchup for so many reasons. Not just because it's a six-man tag with the Wyatts, but what it represented. Hearing the music of Bray Wyatt, and they kept it. And the salute afterwards and during to Brody and Bray. There was so much emotion when that show went off the air. This week, no follow-up at all. No Wyatts. You had a Bo Dallas, maybe like a minute vignette segment, like they've been doing. Kind of like discussing what that meant, and that's good for a minute, but you have to have something much bigger planned later in the night. Because of what happened last night, you have to carry momentum. You cannot have something like that, and then that's it. I mean, it's a 3-hour show. If somebody is clicking through, and trust me, a lot of people have a remote, that's why ratings matter, right? It's telling you, are people tuning in to what segments are they tuning into? That's why ratings matter. Because it can tell these entities, these juggernaut companies, these networks, the promotions, it's telling them what is working and what is not. What are people changing the channel for, right? I'm going over to Yankees, getting beat by the White Sox last night, by the way. One of the worst teams, if not the worst in baseball, the White Sox. And in the pregame, they said, well, the Yankees should win this one easily because the White Sox are on pace to only win 38 games this year. And right when they said that, I said, yep, this Yankee team is going to find a way to lose. We didn't just lose, we got our asses whooped, like 12-2, something like that. But maybe they're catching the ass whooping that the Yankees are taking. Maybe they're checking out a Dancing with the Stars, maybe an old episode of Boy Meets World. Who knows? Family Matters. Did I do that? Maybe. Anything but what is on their TV for Monday Night Raw. A lot of people change the channels nonstop, go back and forth, because the whole 3 hours is not captivating to them. So if you happen to be on something else, just for that 1 minute, you miss Bo Dallas. So you literally are going, whoa, were the Wyatts even a part of this show? No follow-through or follow-up. No carrying on the momentum that you built last week. Nothing with the Wyatts. That is an absolute massive lowlight from last night. How do you have a 3-hour show and you do not showcase the Wyatts, catapult them to something special? Now they were just falling back. All the equity you built up last week, done. The second lowlight from last night. Punk, Mac, Gunther, and Orton. All in the same segment that was only about 9 or 10 minutes, tops. Orton and Gunther doing this promo back and forth. I thought it was decent, actually. We'll go over what was said, some of what was said, and why I felt it was decent. And then, all of a sudden, Mac comes out. Drew McIntyre, what are you doing? You're not getting the title opportunity. Randy's got that. So what is Drew McIntyre doing out there? Because he told Adam Pearce, I'll help you out tonight. With what? It's bad enough you have SmackDown's Randy Orton face-to-face with Gunther. Makes zero sense. Because you're going back a couple months ago when Randy's shoulder was up in a match that wasn't even a title match, by the way. So now all of a sudden Randy from SmackDown gets an automatic title match. So that doesn't make sense to a lot of us, and it's never going to. And on top of that, now Drew McIntyre is coming to the ring. What are you doing? And this was only for CM Punk to come out with no music, by the way. So the crowd wasn't even amplified because there was no music. CM Punk came out, and much respect to Punk, but I mean, the dude looks like an average dude if he's just coming down the aisle, right? He's not the biggest dude, obviously. He doesn't have the biggest muscle. So CM Punk comes out, and half the crowd is like, who's that? No music. You guys can listen and watch yourself. It took a while for the crowd to even realize, oh, that's CM Punk. And he attacks Drew McIntyre. In the ring, Randy Orton just RKO's Gunther while that's happening. That was not even needed, by the way, because the focus is at that point is Drew and CM Punk. Punk is whipping Drew McIntyre with McIntyre's own belt, his leather belt, that Mac took off to hit Punk. Punk got control of that belt, starts whipping Mac. Mac runs off and through the crowd. And that's how the segment is supposed to end, with everybody erupting in probably a massive CM Punk chant. Instead, the crowd was confused, asleep, or just didn't care, because they didn't get the memo. Half the crowd sitting down, not ushering a word. They were like, what, is that it? And then you start to hear a little faded, like CM Punk chant, but it never caught on. And you could tell Punk is like, that's the segment, guys. This is where you're supposed to erupt. I made the heel, the bad guy, the villain, run away. And I have the leather belt. Like that's the end of the segment. You guys are supposed to erupt. The crowd didn't get the memo. It was very oddly done that you took 4 of the top stars on Raw right now, if you include Randy Orton, 2 separate programs. You meshed them together into a 9 to 10 minute segment, and that's what you had? Out of a 3-hour show, that's what you gave these 4 top stars? A massive booking botch. The crowd in attendance could not get behind it, and I assure you a ton of fans watching did not get behind that segment. BC surely didn't. That fell flat from moment 1. Third low light from last night. The women's tag team division. Just as awful as the men's tag team division. How are we doing? The number one contender little mini tournament on SmackDown, right? To come up with new challengers for the championship. So on Friday night SmackDown, we got to do this little mini tournament. And now those 2 winners will face each other next week, and those winners will take on the champions. The Bloodline. The women, same thing. It's a qualifying match, right? A number 1 contenders match. Heels versus heels, by the way. With the heel champions at ringside, Alba and Isla. And they're watching Zoey and Shayna take on Io and Kairi. To which, for all intents and purposes, to BC, they are still heels. There's never been a reason that I should look at Dakota. Dakota, unfortunately, looks like she's having another surgery, probably her knee, I believe. So she's going to be out of action another 9 months to a year. It's just not working. Dakota is like Tegan Nox. They're just so injury prone, and I just don't know if their career is going to get back on track. And I'm so high on Dakota, unfortunately. So I just wanted to pass that news on as well. Hopefully that's not the case for a full year. But that's what it's looking like, especially with surgery. So Dakota is once again on the shelf. She had just gotten back from an injury. It's not looking good. It's like a Tegan Nox situation where Tegan Nox, even at her age, is wrestling with 2 knee braces. She's had multiple, ACL tears or MCL as well. It's just sometimes you're just injury prone and this wrestling thing doesn't work, and that sucks because I really liked Dakota Kai, especially those NXT days. But for Io and Kairi, there's no reason for me to look at them as faces. Just because a heel group, when they just beat the faces Carter and Chance 2 months ago, they just beat the faces as heels. Then a new heel group attacks the heels, Io and Kairi, and now because of that, I'm supposed to now look at Damage Control as faces. No, they're not even playing to the crowd last night. There is 0 reason for me to look at Damage Control as faces. 0! And the only reason the turn happened supposedly is because other heels came in and out-heeled them. No. So you had heels watching on, the champions, Alba and Isla, and you had 2 heel teams facing each other. And when it was all said and done, they tried to have a mishmash. There wasn't even clear winners. Right? Because Kairi, and we'll go over this. I'm not even going to spoil it. I'll go over how the finish happened. But the fact that this is how we are always coming up with number 1 contenders, we're not doing a fun storyline for a challenger champion. We are always doing these number 1 contenders matchups. Turmoil, tag team turmoil, tag team battle royal, tag team mini tournament, a one-off, win and get in. Right? If you win this match, you are the number 1 contender. Where's the storylines? Are you going to try to sell me that is part of the story? They won the turmoil, BC. They won the battle royal. They won the mini tournament. Every single time, dudes or the gals, every time we need new number 1 contenders, we don't start a fun story. We just have a win and get in scenario. And then they win their little matchup, and then we start promoting the champion challenger match. It's not fun. It's not exciting. Nobody is in complete urgency to whip out their wallet and hand you any credit card to watch these tag team matchups. There is no division. For the women and the dudes, there's no tag team division, and that is sad. If you think this is going to draw interest, watching two heel teams, for all intents and purposes, face each other to get a shot at another heel team with no story other than they keep beating each other up every week. That's the story. That's beyond low light from last night. So that's your three highlights. Bronson, Ivy, the Priest, Dominic concession fight, and the three lowlights, basically no Wyatts, coming off of last week's huge Wyatt segment. No Wyatts, Punk, Mac, Orton, and Gunther, and the oddest 9-minute convoluted segment you could have imagined. And the tag team division, this time for the ladies, absolutely not just irrelevant, but non-existent. Woo! I said the cold open would be short and sweet. That was basically a review in and of itself. Listen, the coffee, I told you, I had to stop the cold open and drink a lot of my coffee. When that happened, we got a lot more amplified. Oops. What do you want, man? You know, my veterans know, man. When you tune into a BC upload, even if it's supposed to go only 25, 30 minutes, be prepared for an hour, maybe even 2 hours. Guys, I'm going to get a swig, and we're going to go over this show. I know. You're thinking, well, if the cold open was almost a half an hour, this is going to take an hour plus. No, I am going to try to get this in short. I assure you. I am really going to try to just go with the notes, give you some thoughts after. I don't know if this is going to work or not. Let me get some coffee. We'll go over this show top to bottom, beginning to end, start to finish. Amplified. All right, so Rhea Ripley starts the show. Says Dominic Mysterio stabbed her in the back, but like he's heard many times in his life, it just wasn't deep enough. Come on, that was actually pretty good. Even the crowd was kind of like, oh, I get it. That was pretty good. Morgan and Dominic show up in the crowd. Mysterio says to Rhea. So again, they're in the crowd. Section 305, right? Morgan and Dominic. Now, Morgan, you probably didn't know. She was in those booty shorts. She just had a big jacket over it. But they're in the crowd, and Dominic says, you tried to change me. Do you know how embarrassing it is for a grown man to walk around calling you mommy? Now, I have a woman who calls me daddy. I thought that was very well done. He's alluded to that same type of line before, actually. But this was much more vivid, right? You know how embarrassing it is? You always bossing me around and I got to call you mommy? Now I have a woman that calls me daddy. I mean, if that's not the best reason to go with Liv Morgan, right? That's so believable. He had enough. Dudes in public being absolutely just talking down to. So, you know, here now he has this, he elaborated on that. What'd he say? Do I have the quote? This was hilarious. He said, now I have a woman who calls me daddy. She feeds me tendies. She lets me play video games. And she did the one thing you couldn't do. Help me beat my deadbeat dad. So Dominic Mysterio really good here, but the best part was Damian Priest appearing behind Mysterio and Morgan. It just looks so cool, man, because Damian has that blank stare, the perfect look for something like this. So he shows up right behind them. And then Priest and Mysterio start brawling into the concession area. And eventually it leads them down the crowd into the ring, and that's where we go to break. When we come back from break, it's Priest defeating Carlito. It was Priest and Carlito back from commercial, one-on-one. And Priest defeated Carlito via South of Heaven pinfall. Post-match, Judgment Day attacks Damian. Rhea Ripley for the save. This is my brutality. Rhea doesn't care if she's fighting the ladies or the dudes. It's Rhea for the save. And just like last week, JD McDonald's, complete with his little Happy Meal, got his ass handed to him. That's the same thing that happened last week. But unlike last week, a little bit different this week, Dominic tried to get the upper hand. For some reason, Dominic climbed to the top of the turnbuckle and dove, trying to take out Rhea and Damian. It looked like he was trying to take out Rhea, but Damian like moved her over and caught him. And did he deliver South of Heaven, or he just tried to do the... No, it was Rhea that tried to deliver Riptide, but Liv Morgan was able to get up on the apron and take Dominic's legs and kind of rip him out of the ring. So, but she had him up for the Riptide. Got him up, and Liv Morgan was able to save Dominic yet again. So, kind of like how Dominic saved Liv last Monday. When Liv was about to go through the table and Dominic saved her. Same thing, but flipped. So I thought all that was pretty decent. Rhea, it's in my notes, actually. I was going off recollection, but it is in my notes. Riptide, Dominic pulls, or on Dominic, Morgan pulls him out of the ring. So yeah, not bad. A little convoluted. The best part was just the concession, the brawl, before we went to commercial. After commercial, all right, it's a little convoluted. I'm not sure what we really gained that was new. And it looks like, I think it's even official for Bash in Berlin. It's a mixed tag match. Dominic, Liv, Damian, Rhea. So, and that goes, by the way, Dave Mealy. A couple of super chats. That's in the comments down below. That's not when we're live, but there's a thanks button down below. It's basically a super chat before regular uploads. And Dave Mealy, a couple of uploads ago, talking about Kevin Sullivan. And I do have to say, much love, respect, not just to Kevin Sullivan for always, but family, friends, loved ones of Kevin Sullivan, a big mind in this business, not just what he did in the ring, but behind the scenes. You guys have no idea. That would take a whole upload. But yeah, Dave, I appreciate that about Kevin Sullivan, and I echo those same sentiments. And also, Dave, in the last upload we put up, was this yesterday or 2 days ago? This was the Lashley, not a Triple H guy upload, which thank you guys for making that a huge success too. But Dave, in the comments with that super chat, Dave says, as I'm watching Raw right now, I wonder, and by the way, Dave is not just a channel subscriber, he is a 19-month channel member. Dave says, as I'm watching Raw right now, I'm wondering how would you book WWE's upcoming PLE, Bad Blood? That's in October, by the way. As much as I think Damian and Rhea will take on Dom and Liv in Berlin, I think we could have a lot more creative fun if it was at Bad Blood and make it Hell in a Cell mixed tag team tornado match. I love the idea, Dave. I don't want to future book it because I'm probably going to do an amplified booking for Bash in Berlin. Spoiler for the channel, guys. I know that'll get a lot of you guys happy and excited because you love amplified booking. I haven't done them often. Actually, I haven't done them at all. SummerSlam, I think I finally did one, a kind of abbreviated version. But I'm going to do, I think, an amplified upload for Bash in Berlin and Bad Blood. So I don't want to give too much up front, but Dave, I completely agree. I think it's too early. You should have kept telling the story of Liv, Dominic, Rhea, Damian. It's too early. It's in just a couple weeks, and we're already going to see all four in a match. Hold off. Bad Blood sounds great. It's just a couple months away, early October. So, Dave, I don't want to give too much because I'm going to save that for amplified booking, but I absolutely agree. I would have put more story into it. Save that match. Don't do it at Bash in Berlin. Bad Blood sounds amazing. And if you want to go with that idea, man, Hell in a Cell, absolutely. But I think they have another type, a bigger concept in mind for Bad Blood, which as long as it makes sense, I'm okay with. But Dave, that's my thought on it, man. I was thinking the same thing when I heard this match was official for Bash in Berlin, or is going to be made official if it's not already. I said, no, it's too early. So thank you guys for allowing me a couple minutes just to salute my 19-month channel member. He's just a few months away from that gold coffee badge. 2 straight years. Dave, I appreciate the coffees, man. And that fit perfectly with this first segment because it had to do with Damian, Rhea, Liv, and Dominic. We'll see what they have planned, but it looks like we're going to get that mixed tag match in Germany. We'll see. Next up was Odyssey Jones versus Vincent Winey. Vincent Winey, guys. This is a straight jobber, and I love this, man. This was a quick jobber match ending with an Odyssey sidewalk slam pinfall. Was that so hard? If you're just going to have Odyssey in there for a 2-minute match, don't waste somebody. You know, I know he's SmackDown, but don't just throw in somebody like Mello out there. Don't just throw out, I know he's a face, but like somebody like Tozowa. Don't throw in somebody from AOP. Just so Odyssey can destroy him in 2 minutes. It's not going to do anything for the other dude that's supposed to be a superstar. If it's a 2-minute match anyway, just throw in a local jobber from the bingo hall. Nobody's going to change the channel. Statistically, it shows that people want to see this dude dominate the other. Statistics are showing you, numbers show you that people do not switch the channel for jobber matches. So do them more. And that way, the dude that you want to build will come off looking like a superstar because he's absolutely not just beating, but dominating the other guy. And the guy that got beat, no harm, no foul, he's not one of your superstars anyway. So nobody gets damaged. You're only building somebody. It's not that hard. You need to do more jobber matches on these shows, man. That's how you build these wrestlers into actual superstars. And maybe one day, a few of them can become larger than life. But if you're just throwing Superstar A against Superstar B every week and you're having them have competitive matchups and they're 50-50 booked, your audience can never get behind any of them fully. They can never look at that as a winner because they lose half their matches bare minimum. Or they're always fighting for their lives basically in the ring instead of looking dominant. Jobber matches, man. It's not that hard. Now, this could have been done a lot better, right? The whole purpose of a jobber match is to literally dominate, squash, annihilate the jobber, the local bingo hall talent. That's the whole point, right? Something like Bronson Reed. You're just absolutely destroying this dude. You feel bad for that dude. But Odyssey just hit a sidewalk slam, 1, 2, 3, and that was it. We could have annihilated. You could have shown the power of Odyssey a lot more. That's what a jobber match is for. Showcase everything in your arsenal to the live crowd. Show them how dominant you truly are to that live crowd and everybody watching. So I was hoping Odyssey would squash him a lot more. But post-match, Final Testament hits the top of the ramp. Karrion Kross says, and I quote, "At first glance, it looks like Kofi is using Odyssey to replace Big E, but no. The truth is, Kofi is using Odyssey to replace you, Xavier Woods." Thought that was really well done. Woods responds that he's tired of Kross trying to drive a wedge between the New Day. A match is then made for next week, a 6-man tag. Is this where Xavier Woods and the tension with Kofi and Odyssey, is this where it really comes to a head? Because they've been planting the seeds for it, but so far Xavier still has a smile, right? You could tell he's not totally on board with Odyssey in the group, but he still wears a smile. Next week, I think we're going to amp it up a little bit. I don't think they're going to fully break up the New Day, but I think you're really going to start to see Xavier Woods lose that smile. I was really excited. You guys know how much I love jobber matches. I know a lot of you guys wouldn't have. You were like, oh, BC must be loving this, man. It was a jobber match. Yes. I love jobber matches. I get to finally see someone dominate. I can get behind somebody now. That was the end of hour number 1, guys. So basically, you just had Priest over, wrestling-wise, Priest over Carlito and Odyssey over Vincent Winey. A lot of filler, a lot of talk, and hour number 1 was over. Hour number 2 starts with Alpha Academy versus American Made. For Alpha Academy, obviously, Tozowa, Otis versus American Made, the Creed brothers. This was a tornado tag, by the way. Ivy Nile annihilates Maxine. For all intents and purposes, that was her heel turn, right? The Creeds already did, but Ivy was kind of on the fence, right? Ivy's a happy-go-lucky gal. Ivy always never saw eye to eye with Chad Gable. Always looked at Chad Gable like he was full of absolute crap. But Ivy Nile went full Chad Gable last week, completely bought in because Nile absolutely annihilated Maxine. And I thought it was just so well done because earlier in the night backstage, Ivy tried to tell Maxine to stand down. In fact, I can even talk to Chad Gable. Maybe you can work with us or come into our faction. But this is just not the best case. And Maxine's like, I'm not leaving my family. And Ivy just said, I thought you'd say that, and walked away. So right at that point, I was like, I don't know, Ivy might clock Maxine tonight. Sure enough, she did more than that. Ivy, Niall, and this was a distraction for Tozowa. And I could have sworn I blinked or I was doing some notes and I looked up and it looked like he was fruit roll up. So I'm not exactly sure how he got pinned, but it looked like he was just rolled up because he got right back up afterwards. But no matter what, Tozowa was the one looking up at the lights. Creed brothers get the W. Ivy Nile steals the entire segment by full throttle. No questions now. Ivy is full throttle heel. And that little pit bull, that's just going to be amplified to 10 now. So I'm looking forward to what they do with Ivy. Ivy and Chad Gable. Now I can get behind this. When it was just Gable and the Creed brothers, I don't know. The Creed brothers are still kind of odd to me. They're horrible on the microphone. They have skill, immense skill in the ring, but everything else is off. So they're really going to have to depend on Chad Gable with everything they do. But with now Ivy Nile, oh man, BC is, I'm a lot more interested. And again, that was the start of hour 2, Ivy's big heel turn. So now we go into the women's tag match. This was a #1 contenders match. Of course, it always is. Why would we have a storyline and then get to the pay-per-view premium live event title match? No, we're just going to play win and get in. And then at the PLE, there's your match, right? Remember, this match is set up because they won the tournament or they won the #1 contenders match. This was the same thing. Isla and Alba are at ringside with their titles. Zoey and Shayna are in the ring facing Io and Kairi. And they're all heels to BC. They're all heels, man. Because again, I have no reason to look at Io and Kairi as faces. They got beat up by other heels. Zoey and Shayna. Okay, that's... How are they faces now? They're not doing anything to come across as faces. They're not playing to the crowd. Changing their music up a little isn't going to make them faces. They did nothing, right? They beat up Bailey, tell the crowd to screw off, and then other heels beat them up. So now all of a sudden we're supposed to go, oh, we love you. That's not how it's done. So weird. And that's why they're not getting the reaction that I'm sure Hunter was hoping he was going to get. I could have told you that was going to happen. Nobody knows what to think about Damage Control. At this point, by doing this type of booking, you're ruining Damage Control. And Io is one of the best wrestlers on the planet for the females. Io and Kairi win via DQ and Alba and Isla hit the ring and lay them out. So Damage Control has been out-heeled by everybody, right? Zoey and Shayna just come out of nowhere and beat up the heels, Damage Control. Alba and Isla come out, get in the ring, and beat up Damage Control. What are you doing, man? Can Damage Control beat up anybody? And now they're trying to hide the DQ victory too. They're trying to sell it. WWE is trying to sell it like Alba and Isla just beat up everybody, so the match was kind of thrown out. It's a no contest, but that's BS. They beat up Damage Control. Damage Control got the W. So, no, they became #1 contenders. So they're probably going to try to find a way at Bash in Berlin probably to have all of these teams in a triple threat tag match or something like that. I wouldn't put it past this company, right? It was clear as day. They won via DQ last night. They win, period. But they'll find a way to add in Zoey, and then you're just going to have 3 heel teams facing each other. Because, again, I refuse to look at Damage Control as faces. They haven't given me a reason to. And that was the end of hour 2, guys. I'm not even joking. Alpha Academy versus American Made, and Io and Kairi versus Shayna and Zoey, and a lot of filler backstage. That was it. And by the way, in case you're wondering, Shayna, Zoey, and Sonya Deville, they're now called PFC, Pure Fusion Collective. Pure Fusion Collective. To which BC says, yeah, PFC. Pure freaking cringe. Hour 3. This is Randy Orton and Gunther face-to-face in-ring promo. Orton reintroduces himself to Gunther, says he's got 5 kids and a hot-ass smoke show of a wife, and he's about to be a 15-time champion. Gunther says, no, you'll find a way to screw it up. Your grandfather was a screw-up, your father was a screw-up, and you are a screw-up. Drew McIntyre then comes to the ring. The distraction allows Orton to hit an RKO on Gunther. CM Punk catapults to the ring without music. Punk proceeds to whip Mac with his own belt. And Mac runs up the crowd and runs away. Very odd segment. The crowd was confused, asleep, or just didn't care. 1, 2, or all 3 of those. Confused, asleep, or didn't care. Because when that segment came to an end and everybody was supposed to be erupting, when Punk chased off Mac, it didn't happen. They never panned back to Randy Orton. He disappeared. Gunther was laid out, I guess, by the RKO. They took 4 of the top stars on a 3-hour show. 4 of the top stars, 2 different scenarios that you could have spent 10, 15, 20 minutes on each on a 3-hour show. They meshed both separate situations into one 9-minute segment, and it fell flat. Fell flat. When it went to commercial, I'm like, when we come back, there's got to be more, right? There has to be. Tell me they didn't just use Gunther, Randy, Mac, and Punk and that 9 minutes and try to mesh it all together. Why would you do that? Wildly bad. If this was good, bad, and the ugly review, I would have put 10 uglies. And by the way, I just got to say, when Randy Orton said that too, out of nowhere, he says, let me reintroduce myself. He says, I got 5 kids and a hot-ass smoke show of a wife, and soon to be 15-time champion. I couldn't help but think he was meshing Heath Slater with Carl Anderson, right? Orton says, I got 5 kids. I couldn't help but think Heath Slater, I got kids! And then Carl Anderson would always talk about his hot-ass Asian wife. So when he said, I got a hot-ass smoke show of a wife, I'm thinking he's mixing a little Heath Slater with a little Carl Anderson with a little John Cena, talking about his 15-time reign if he beats Gunther, which he's not going to. Cena, of course, has 16. Would have been cool if Orton had 16. Cena had 16. Cena's tour, his retirement tour is coming up. 16-16 with a title on the line, right? One of them you know is going to break the record. That would have been cool. But I did have to bring up that 5 kids, hot-ass smoke show of a wife, man. Randy Orton, too funny. And then Gunther's like, all right, you're still going to screw it all up. That was awesome. And then it all just fell apart, right? If they just kept talking, maybe it would have been good. But then Mac comes out and we're all like, what? Why are you meshed? That could be its own thing. You could spend 15 minutes. If you have Punk and Mac in the same arena, they're both there, they're scheduled, push that, make that something. They were talking about CM Punk travel issues, and maybe that, like, had the show rewritten a little bit. You still can't do that, right? Once he's in the arena and you know that, okay, do something fun. But you can't tack that on to Gunther and Randy because you get a reaction like that, and you get a segment that is that flat. And if anything, it just diluted Punk and McIntyre. It looks like they're going to have a strap match, by the way, because backstage Punk was like, I think I have an idea, and he's looking at the belt. It's probably going to be like a strap match in Berlin. More than likely. Then we have a backstage segment where Sheamus is beat up by P.D. Dunne and Ludwig Kaiser. Okay. It was funny. They did a backstage segment an hour before, and it was before the show. Empty crowd. Jackie Redmond, I believe, is in the crowd. Again, it's empty. They're in empty seats, but they're in section 305. And Jackie Redmond is interviewing P.D. Dunne. And she brings up Butch. And Pete Dunne is like, I don't ever want to hear that again. But he's not blaming Vince McMahon or anything. He's, storyline-wise, he is blaming Sheamus. He is like, for 2 years, I had to be the whipping boy, basically, to Sheamus, you know? The ignored stepchild. The little brother. Go away, go in the corner. Be seen but not heard. For 2 years, I had to do that. And be that name. And he was blaming Sheamus for that. I thought that was that was probably the best part. The backstage beating of Sheamus does nothing. Bronson Reed then defeats Miz via pinfall off the Tsunami Splash. Post-match, Bronson hits 6 or 7, one of the two, 6, maybe even 7, tsunamis on R-Truth. It just kept going up, and then he would go to a different turnbuckle when they would try to move R-Truth. And every time Pierce got redder and was screaming, Adam Pierce was flipping out. And Bronson was just like, no emotion. Bronson just didn't even argue back. He just would go back to the top of the turnbuckle and deliver another tsunami splash. Deliver. Remix, BC. He would deliver another one. Every time Pierce would get louder and more pissed off, he went right back up. So R-Truth is probably thinking, Pierce, shut up. Shut up, shut up, shut up. So, and you got to think, where was Miz, man? Miz took one, because that was the win, right? Bronson defeated Miz via pinfall off of one tsunami. He was about to deliver another. That's when R-Truth kind of saved him. But where was Miz help? I mean, okay, after a couple 2-3, you could say Miz was still recovering from his one. But once you get to about the fourth tsunami, because there was a lot of time, they let this breathe. Bronson was being yelled at by Pierce. He would just kind of look around like he knew the destruction he was causing, but he's not quite done because he wants to show Adam Pierce. So, I mean, there was so much time for Miz to recoup from that one tsunami. Miz never helped out R-Truth. I'm just saying, Miz and R-Truth, I think they have worn out their welcome. I think it's time for them to go their separate ways. Maybe this is a vehicle to get them there. But I just have to question, where was Miz? Bronson, again, hit 6 or 7 tsunamis on R-Truth. Pierce is he's flipping out. And this is why I said in the cold open, they know how to build stars. They know, they just choose not to. They don't want to build anybody if they feel it's not who they want, or they just feel it's not their time. Right? Like when LA Knight was, I bring him up all the time, not to sound like a broken record, but when it was his time, when the crowd was telling Hunter it's his time, they kept him on a shelf the entire year of 2023. And into 2020, he just won his first title. He just won it at SummerSlam. Because now they designated his time. They passed him up on SummerSlam show. They passed him up at WrestleMania. They passed him up at that big Madison Square Garden SmackDown. They passed him out with the briefcase last year. They passed him up when he was supposed to win or should have won that U.S. title, but they gave it to Ray. They passed up him the whole year when he was one of the hottest stars, and into 2024. Just to give him a mid-card title anyway at SummerSlam. Because they just deemed it was not time. That's not who we want. He's in his 40s. We have to see. Right? Hunter even said that. He goes, sometimes, it's like a flash in the pan. Will they cheer you, but then they kind of die off. Fans can be what Bryan Danielson calls fickle, and he is right. But that doesn't mean you don't put the Rocket Man when it's time. You can't just absolutely, it's almost like they were sabotaging LA Knight. It's like they were hoping that it would go away. When you wait a year and a half after somebody is white lightning hot, and you wait a year and a half to put a title on him, you're just waiting for him to dilute. You're diminishing his value. They know how to build stars. They choose not to. Well, they just make it so much more difficult. Somebody like Dragunov, the day he debuts on that main roster, you show the audience what makes Dragunov special. Everything that made Dragunov special, they absolutely crushed it on day one. Or maybe not. I think he did beat Ricochet on that first match, right? And then all of a sudden, it was L after L after L after L. So whenever he finally gets a push, maybe not the same way as Bronson, obviously, but I'm guessing you would have to think that there's going to be a push for Dragunov in the future, just like Mello. But when there is, we all now have to try to forget all of those L's and how bad he can be and how many just matches he just lost, and he's supposed to all be about heart. And then when Dragunov finally gets a push, we're supposed to go, yeah, man, now you're going to see Dragunov. Now he's amping it up. Where was it before? Like, just, you get one shot at a first impression. I bring this up all the time. I just bring up Razor Ramon because it was so well done. And when he debuted, right, all the vignettes and and when he finally debuted, Razor Ramon was special. Not anybody can be beating Razor, and he should not be collecting L after L, and he didn't. That's how you bring in somebody. Dragunov comes in, Mello comes in, Cameron Grimes comes in, all these people come in, Bronson, and they just lose left and right. Could you imagine Razor Ramon debuting and just losing a bunch of his matches more than he wins? It wouldn't work. Nobody would look at Razor as special. That Bronson Reed was the show last night. He was I mean, if you think back to this show, that's the one thing you're probably going to remember from the jump, right? Oh, what comes to mind first? Oh, Bronson. Absolutely squashing R-Truth. That doesn't say a lot about a 3-hour Monday Night Raw when Bronson Reed is your highlight. The main event was an IC title match, 2 out of 3 falls. This was the unpredictable badass is what they call him, Bron Breakker. If this was Vince McMahon giving him that name, you rip it apart. So many people let it slide because it's Hunter Hearst Helmsley. No, I like it. He's an unpredictable badass, BC. It couldn't be any more lame. It couldn't be. Unpredictable badass versus Sami Zayn. Never realized, first of all, I just have to say, I never realized until last night. I knew I didn't like it, but I really got to see it. Like I spent a moment to look at this IC title, the actual championship. I never realized until last night just how plain and lame that title and design truly is. That is just a horrid. I would take this version easily. Can you guys see that? I would take that version. And that's not even my favorite. My favorite is the old school Ultimate Warrior, Rick Rude. You guys know, man. Cody Rhodes tried to bring it back, didn't he? I think Cody Rhodes did bring it back years ago. But that was the IC title, man. I'll even take this for this IC title. What do we do? Who designed that? That's like something that should be at the local bingo hall. Maybe. And even then, I'd go, whoa, you got to get a new title. Anyway, the match itself, Sami Zayn wins Fall 1. Unpredictable Badass wins Fall 2 and Fall 3. Bron Breakker remains your champion. I think we all knew that was happening. But at least this was like, you know, this was the consolation prize for the 6 minutes or just under 6-minute match they had at SummerSlam when Bron Breakker defeated Sami Zayn, and that just didn't feel right. The community was like, that wasn't it. HHH. That was not it, dude. That was a botch. So this was like their way to go, all right, now we're going to let them rock out. You know, you're going to get 3 matches in 1. I felt this was a lot better than SummerSlam's for sure. But, you know, I'm not going to go overboard. This was a rematch of a rematch, right? We've seen them several times now. Just like you've seen Dragunov and Bron Breakker several times. That mid-card, man, we have to up the ante on that starting next week. It's getting really redundant. It's like the mid-card of SmackDown. It's very redundant. I just feel like I'm seeing Andrade and Escobar too much. Or Mello and Andrade. These mid-cards, if they're just going to wrestle, not just even brawl every week, which is redundant, but if they're actually going to have matches, the same matches every week, it's going to lose its luster real quick. For BC, these mid-cards need to amp up. The stories, right? For a while now, we've been talking about some good stories at the top, the Judgment Day, and Punk and Drew. Bloodline has been iffy with this bootleg Bloodline, but with Roman coming back, maybe it's ignited something. But some good stuff at the top, for sure. Mid-card, it needs a lifeline. The women's division is absolutely, it's crumbled right now. It just needs to be, like, you got to put the pieces where they belong, and hopefully you can resurrect the women's division. The tag team division is completely non-existent. You just have to, like, you have to create a division, basically. Good luck with that. So there is so much that Hunter Hearst Helmsley he just has no control over right now. And that's where we have to focus on, man. The women's division, the tag team division for the males and the women, for sure. It's both. And then that mid-card. It's rough. Very rough. And that showed, again, last night on Monday Night Raw. So that's the review, man, in totality. That is as amplified of a review, as honest, fair, but firm that you're going to get, man. So we'll see. We're just a couple weeks away from Bash in Berlin. We'll see how the card shapes out. The next big event will be SmackDown this Friday. Roman Reigns is advertised for that show. All of the latest news and developments, updates in the wrestling world, we will have it for you on this channel. So again, stay subscribed, notified, do all the things, press all the things, smash the up, let BC know that you are fully amplified, while at the same time helping out that algorithm. I appreciate it. And until next time, and there will be that next time, top guys, we are out. BC in the unit saying check you.